John Wayne, you know John Wayne?
John Wayne.
Yeah, John Wayne, man, the Duke. Hang out with the Duke. I'll be right back. You might see one of your cousins walking around here.
Suddenly, they turned their backs on everything. From movie icons to chart-topping singers, they all chose faith over fame. Fame couldn't fill the emptiness they felt, so they left. But all of them found something they say was greater, making their stories just as powerful as they're surprising. Join us as we delve into the heart-touching stories of celebrities who chose God over gratification. Number 1. Sherri Shepard. Sherri Shepard grew up in a strict household, raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Her early life followed many rules, but over time, she started to question the beliefs she had been taught. In the early 1990s, her doubts grew stronger, and she slowly began to move away from religion. Her career began with stand-up comedy. She performed in tough clubs, often late at night, telling very raw, vulgar jokes. She worked hard to make people laugh, even if it meant pushing boundaries. In those days, she believed she had to be outrageous to get attention. Her comedy had a wild edge, and it drew in a strong crowd, especially in West Hollywood, where she performed at pride events and all-male clubs. She built a name for herself doing long sets that were blue, bold, and rebellious. But life took a turn when she faced painful moments, including getting evicted, losing her mother, and dealing with a dangerous ex. These experiences pushed her to think deeply about life, and during this time, she began finding her way back to God. Her time on The View helped her share this side of her journey. Slowly, she moved away from her old material and embraced a different way of living. She lost part of her audience, but found a new purpose. Today, she is a committed evangelical Christian, focused on faith and family. If you think that was crazy, wait till you see the rest of them. Number 2. Brian Welch. Brian Welch rose to fame in the 1990s as one of the guitarists for the heavy metal band Korn. The band's music was loud, angry, and filled with pain. Their songs became massive hits, carrying disturbing images and dark lyrics that thrilled fans. But behind the scenes, Welch was crumbling. The fame and wild lifestyle came with heavy substance use and emotional chaos. For years, he battled addiction, trying to escape from inner pain through the dangerous world he lived in. Then, in 2005, he shocked the music industry. He quit Korn and left everything behind. He said he had found peace through Jesus, and he wanted to walk a different path. Many people didn't believe it at first, but he kept going. He showed up at a church service just days later and spoke openly about his transformation. He said he finally felt joy again. The change was deep, and it wasn't just talk. Welch completely changed his music and began to share his story in powerful videos and interviews. By 2008, he was appearing alongside athletes and other celebrities in testimonial films. He spoke about leaving addiction and finding peace through faith. Though he gave up the wild spotlight, he found something better. He found clarity and calm in a life built around truth and purpose. Number 3. Chris Tucker. In the early 1990s, Chris Tucker started making a name for himself in comedy clubs, catching everyone's attention. Became known for his wild energy and quick jokes on stage. Soon, he broke out with his role as Smokey in the movie For the Rye Day. But his biggest fame came when he starred in the Rush Hour movies with Jackie Chan. These films made him a global star, known for his fast-talking humor and physical comedy. He also had roles in major films like The Fifth Element and Silver Linings Playbook. Tucker had grown up in a strict Christian home, but as he got older and more famous, he drifted away from faith. Then something happened during the filming of Money Talks in 1997. Though no one knows exactly what, it deeply changed him. After that, he became a born-again Christian and began to live very differently. He became more careful about the roles he took. Tucker turned down offers that didn't fit with his beliefs, even saying no to a sequel for the movie Friday despite its success. He still worked on Rush Hour films since they were more family-friendly. Over time, he returned to stand-up comedy, but changed his act completely. He stopped using bad language and focused on clean, funny stories. Tucker now travels, performing comedy that reflects his faith and values. Number 4. Stephen Baldwin. Stephen Baldwin made his way into Hollywood with a string of energetic roles in the 1990s. He acted in offbeat comedies like Biodome and The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas, as well as serious films like Born on the 4th of July and The Usual Suspects. Though his films got mixed reviews, Baldwin became known for his wild style and intense personality. He was the youngest of the Baldwin brothers and stood out with his own path in the film world. But his personal life was filled with struggle. He battled substance use and bad choices that pulled him into darker places. Everything began to shift after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. That moment hit Baldwin hard, and it forced him to take a closer look at his life. He turned to faith and became a born-again evangelical Christian. From then on, his life changed direction completely. He stopped chasing the same Hollywood dreams and focused on faith-based work. In 2008, he started a radio show with a conservative host, using the platform to share his beliefs. By the following year, the show reached hundreds of cities and was heard worldwide. Baldwin remained outspoken about his beliefs, even though it cost him roles. He said many in Hollywood rejected him for being so open about his faith. Still, he refused to hide his beliefs and continued down a path shaped by conviction and purpose. This next person went to the extreme. Number 5. Dolores Hart. Dolores Hart was a rising star in Hollywood during the late 1950s and early 1960s. She worked with some of the most famous actors of the time and quickly gained attention for her charm and talent. She starred alongside Elvis Presley in Loving You, and then continued to build her career with strong roles in King Creole, Where the Boys Are, and Francis of Assisi. People saw her as one of the most promising young actresses in the industry. But at the peak of her success, she made a decision that took everyone unawares. Instead of chasing more fame, Dolores chose a completely different path. In 1963, she walked away from Hollywood and joined the Benedictine Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut. Her final screen appearance was on The Virginian, where she played a Catholic missionary, and that role seemed to mirror the direction her real life was about to take. After filming ended, she knew her time in the entertainment world was over. Her desire for something deeper had grown stronger than any red carpet or camera flash. Dolores embraced her new life as a Roman Catholic nun, finding peace and purpose in a place far from movie sets. Her story was later shared with the world in the documentary God is the Bigger Elvis, which earned an Academy Award nomination and gave people a look into a life built on faith and courage. Number 6. Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron became a household name in the 1980s thanks to his role as Mike Seaver on Growing Pains. He was young, popular, and one of the biggest teen idols of his generation. He had fame, money, and a promising future in Hollywood. But something unexpected happened while he was still in the middle of his success. While working on the sitcom, a conversation led him to think deeply about faith and the purpose of life. He soon gave up his beliefs as an atheist and became a born-again Christian. After this transformation, Kirk struggled to stay in the same world that made him famous. He no longer wanted to act in ways that didn't reflect his beliefs. Toward the end of Growing Pains, he began challenging the writers about the behavior of his character. These clashes with the producers played a part in the show's ending. Even though he stepped away from mainstream Hollywood, Kirk never left the spotlight completely. He moved into faith-based films and became a major figure in Christian media. He starred in movies like Fireproof and Left Behind, and created a show called The Way of the Master to spread his message. Kirk's views sparked strong reactions, especially when he voiced opinions about controversial topics. Despite criticism, he stayed firm in his beliefs and continued speaking boldly about his faith, turning his back on fame to serve a higher calling. Number 7. Denise Matthews. Vanity, whose real name was Denise Matthews, lived a life of extremes. She became famous in the early 1980s as the lead singer of Vanity 6, a girl group created by Prince. Their hit song, Nasty Girl, turned Vanity into a star overnight. With her striking looks and fearless attitude, she became a pop culture icon. She also appeared in several movies, carving out a space for herself in both music and film. But deep down, she was struggling with a life filled with addiction, pain, and risky choices. Everything began to change in 1992 during the filming of Da Vinci's War, when a co-star invited her to read the Bible. Something in her shifted, and she soon gave up her stage name and reclaimed her birth name, Denise Matthews. Just a couple of years later, she was hospitalized for kidney failure after a substance overdose. Doctors didn't expect her to live. During that terrifying time, Denise said she had a spiritual experience that made her surrender her old life for good. After recovering, she left Hollywood and never looked back. She began traveling to churches, speaking about her journey and sharing her message. She even founded her own ministry in California. Denise spent the rest of her life devoted to her faith, leaving behind her former image. She passed away in 2016, remembered not only for her fame, but for the powerful way she turned her life around. Talk about hearing directly from God. Check out this next person. Number 8. Montel Jordan. Montel Jordan became an R&B superstar in the mid-1990s with his hit single, This Is How We Do It. The song exploded onto the charts and made him a household name. It was played everywhere, from clubs to parties, and stayed at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 for weeks. Born and raised in Los Angeles, Montell grew up attending a Baptist church with his family. But as his music career took off, his connection to faith faded. He dove into the music world, chasing success for years. However, as the years went by, Montell felt something was missing. In 2010, while planning a new comeback album, he joined a church fast at Victory World Church in Georgia. It was during this spiritual break that he felt God speaking directly to him, urging him to walk away from the music industry. That moment was powerful enough to make him cancel his album and change his entire life path. Montell didn't just return to church, he became a leader. He joined the ministry at Victory World Church and began using his voice in a new way. He released a gospel album called Shake Heaven and now works with the church's music team. His days of performing on big stages shifted into preaching and praising through worship. Montell found joy not in fame, but in faith, using his story to help others find purpose beyond the spotlight. Number 9. Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield is an actor with both British and American roots. He first gained attention in 2010 with his role as Eduardo Savarine in The Social Network, but it was his time as Spider-Man that made him a star. He took on the role in The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel, returning again in Spider-Man: No Way Home. But beyond the superhero fame, Garfield found something deeply personal during his career that changed him entirely. While preparing for his role in Silence, a Martin Scorsese film about a 17th-century Jesuit priest in Japan, Garfield had to go through intense preparation. He spent time with real priests, studied their spiritual practices, and took part in Christian meditations. During this time, he discovered something new. He began to feel a deep emotional connection to the story of Jesus, a figure he previously didn't think much about. This connection wasn't forced. It came naturally, as if a part of him had been waiting for it. One priest, Father James Martin, became a guide and mentor during this process. Through hours of conversations and reflection, Garfield found himself drawn toward the Christian faith in a way he never had before. It wasn't just research anymore. It became personal. The role changed him, not just as an actor, but as a person exploring something much bigger than himself. Number 10. Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough built a solid career in film and television, known for playing strong, complex characters. He started acting in the early 90s, and his big break came with Band of Brothers, where he played Lieutenant Buck Compton. From there, he went on to appear in major films like Minority Report, The Chronicles of Riddick, and Captain America: The First Avenger. He never stopped working, but behind the scenes, Neil was following a personal path that not everyone understood. Deeply committed to his Catholic faith, McDonough made choices that set him apart in the entertainment world. He made it clear he would not do intimate scenes or kiss co-stars, not out of pride, but out of devotion to his beliefs and respect for his wife, Ruve Robertson, whom he met while filming Band of Brothers. This decision cost him work. He was even fired from the TV show Scoundrels because of it. Many thought he was difficult to work with, but he wasn't being rebellious. He was being loyal. Still, he never let that slow him down. McDonough took on roles that aligned with his values and stayed true to his principles. He kept building his career, never sacrificing what mattered most to him. His quiet strength didn't just show on screen. It shaped his real life, no matter the cost. This next person's life was changed by an experience. Number 11. Gary Busey. Gary Busey made a name for himself in Hollywood with intense performances and unforgettable energy. His big moment came when he played Buddy Holly in The Buddy Holly Story, earning him an Oscar nomination. He went on to appear in films like Silver Bullet, DC Cab, A Star is Born, and Eye of the Tiger. But Busey's life off-screen became just as dramatic as his roles. In 1980, he had a near-fatal motorcycle accident that shook him deeply and pushed him in a new direction. After recovering, Busey began to explore faith. He eventually declared himself a born-again Christian. This wasn't a passing phase. He said his brush with death opened his heart, and later, a substance overdose in 1995 pushed him even further into his beliefs. He didn't quit acting, but he became very particular about the roles he would take. If something didn't sit right with his faith, he didn't do it. However, that dedication caused a lot of tension. On the set of Quigley in 2003, Busey got upset with how heaven was portrayed. He didn't think it was accurate. He said he had experienced heaven during his accident, and what they had on set wasn't even close. He refused to do the scene and caused a scene himself. He even got into a physical fight with another actor. His passion wasn't just for acting anymore, it was for what he believed was real. Number 12. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was one of the most famous actors of his time. Known as the King of Cool, he brought a unique edge to films like The Great Escape, Bullet, The Magnificent Seven, and The Sand Pebbles, the last of which got him an Academy Award nomination. But before fame, Steve had a rough past. As a young boy, he got into trouble, joined gangs, and ended up at a correctional facility for boys. Later, he joined the Marines, where he finally found some direction and discipline. Then he turned to acting, and the world took notice. Away from the screen, McQueen had another love: speed. He raced cars and even learned to fly planes. His flight instructor was a man named Sammy Mason, a kind and patient man who quietly lived by faith. Their long hours in the air gave them time to talk, and Sammy spoke gently about what gave his life peace and purpose. Steve listened, curious. Eventually, he started attending church with Mason and asked for regular Bible study sessions. It became a weekly habit. Not long after, Steve fell ill while working on his last film, The Hunter. The diagnosis was grim. He had cancer. Though his body weakened, his spirit remained calm. His new faith gave him comfort during those hard final months. He passed away the next year, on November 7, 1980, but his journey ended in a place of peace, shaped not by Hollywood, but by something far greater. Number 13. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash had a voice that felt like it came from deep within the earth, steady, low, and emotional. He became a legend not just in country music, but across many styles. From country and gospel to blues and rockabilly, Johnny Cash left his mark everywhere. He started making waves in the 1950s with hit songs that pulled people in with their rhythm and raw honesty. But behind the fame, his life grew darker. The pressure, the pace, and the loneliness pushed him into substance and alcohol addiction, which kept causing him to slip further away from peace, until, finally, everything broke. Then came a turning point. In 1968, Cash became a born-again Christian. That decision changed everything. He began to sing more gospel music and focus deeply on his faith. He even stopped performing secular songs for a while. In the 1970s, he was ordained as a minister and even led his daughter's wedding. His devotion became his mission. He recorded spoken-word versions of the New Testament and talked to crowds about redemption and salvation. He saw music as a way to help others out of the same darkness he once knew. Even near the end of his life, he kept attending church regularly with his wife. Johnny Cash stayed strong in his faith, choosing to guide others the way he had once been guided. Guess who's next? Number 14. Alexa Penavega. Alexa Penavega grew up in the spotlight, first becoming famous as the adventurous Carmen in the Spy Kids movies. For years, she lived in the fast-moving world of Hollywood, working hard and rising quickly. But something started to feel wrong. Her heart was not at peace. Then she met Carlos, the man who would become her husband, during a Bible study. That meeting quietly turned her life around. Slowly, she started seeing things differently. Her success in film began to feel less important than building a life filled with purpose and faith. After they got married, Alexa and Carlos decided to leave Los Angeles. In 2017, they packed up their lives and moved to Hawaii. That move wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Alexa began to let go of the idea that her career had to define her. Instead, she focused on being a great wife and mother. Later on, she started acting again, but only in projects that matched her values. Together with Carlos, she appeared in several faith-based movies, including The Power Couple. She found peace in slowing down and making room for God in every part of her life. Alexa Penavega didn't disappear. She simply chose a new kind of spotlight, one that shines from a place of truth and quiet strength. Number 15. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington earned his place as one of the most powerful actors of his time. He brought intensity, wisdom, and deep emotion to every role he played, from television shows to blockbuster films. He kept climbing, becoming a trusted and respected figure in Hollywood. But behind the talent was a man who often felt torn. As he gained more success, Denzel also felt a strong calling toward faith. He grew up with Christian values and stayed close to them, even while working in a world full of noise and pressure. There were moments when he even thought about walking away from it all to become a preacher. That pull toward ministry never left him. He became a member of the West Angeles Church of God in Christ and remained committed to reading the Bible and praying daily. He picked roles with care, making sure they fit the kind of message he wanted to share. Denzel believed that acting could be a way to reach people, just like preaching. For more than 30 years, he stayed rooted in his faith, quietly guiding others by example. His fame never became more important than his spiritual path. In his own way, Denzel Washington chose to lead not with loud words, but through steady truth and meaningful purpose. Number 16. Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey's journey was full of twists, rough edges, and powerful turns. He started as a stand-up comedian, struggling to find his place. Life wasn't always kind to him. He spent time homeless, sleeping in his car, and wondering how he would ever climb out. But even in his lowest moments, he never gave up. Then came television, hosting gigs, comedy specials, and eventually Family Feud. He made people laugh, but he also carried something heavy inside him. His mother had been a Sunday school teacher, and faith was always around him growing up. Still, Steve didn't fully understand it until life hit him hard. After marrying Marjorie in 2007, everything began to change. She brought peace into his life and helped him see himself differently. Steve often speaks about how God saved his soul and gave him a second chance. He had felt lost before, making decisions without prayer or guidance. But now, he makes faith the center of everything. On his show, he often gives space to guests who talk about God and share spiritual messages. He sees his platform as more than entertainment. It's a tool for lifting others. Steve Harvey rose from the bottom, not just to make people laugh, but to remind them that with faith, redemption is always possible. God had a plan for him, and it manifested in due time. Number 17. Stanley Burrell. Stanley Burrell, known to the world as MC Hammer, once ruled the music scene with his flashy moves, catchy beats, and wild energy. He rose fast with huge hits like You Can't Touch This and Too Legit to Quit, becoming a global superstar. But behind the scenes, things started to fall apart. At first, Hammer had a deep Christian faith, raised in a strict Pentecostal household. But when success came, he drifted away from his beliefs, chasing fame and fortune. As his popularity faded, he was harshly criticized and called a sellout. His wealth crumbled, to the extent he filed for bankruptcy with more than $13 million in debt in 1994. That low point became a turning moment. Hammer found himself again through faith and had a powerful spiritual awakening. He began creating music with spiritual and positive messages. His album, Family Affair, reflected that change, showing a more thoughtful side of him. He started speaking publicly about his devotion to Christianity, even appearing on faith-based programs. He became an ordained minister, officiating celebrity weddings and leading youth and prison ministries. He used television to share his beliefs and gave his stage name a new meaning. MC now stood for Man of Christ. Hammer still makes music, runs a business, and shares his faith. Through all the highs and lows, he never stopped moving forward with purpose. When it comes to strong conviction, this next individual has it. Number 18. Angus T Jones. Angus T Jones became one of television's most recognized young faces when he joined 2.5 Men as Jake Harper. He was just a kid when he got the role, and the show made him a star almost overnight. People laughed at his jokes, and he became part of one of the most watched sitcoms on TV. But as Angus grew up, the fun and fame started to feel different. Something inside him began to change. He had always felt a connection to his faith, but it became stronger as he got older. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he became with the show's adult content. He didn't feel right about being part of something filled with jokes about intimacy, hard substances, and partying. The guilt grew heavier until it was too much. He felt torn between his job and his beliefs. That struggle led him to walk away from the show in 2014. Angus became very honest about why he left. He believed he couldn't keep living a double life. He felt like a hypocrite, smiling on screen while battling with guilt off-screen. After leaving, he spoke out against the show, saying it didn't match his values and even discouraged people from watching it. Now, he lives quietly, staying close to his faith and far away from the spotlight that once made him famous. He chose peace over popularity. Number 19. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry built an empire with characters that made people laugh, cry, and think deeply. He rose from a tough past to become a household name, thanks in part to his outstanding character Mcdana. That role turned him into a star, but Perry's vision was always bigger. From plays to films, his stories often showed faith, love, and second chances. With each project, he brought real-life struggles to the screen and filled them with hope. His film, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, marked a turning point, blending drama and humor with spiritual messages. But Perry's work didn't stop there. He created many shows and movies, always spotlighting family and faith. Behind all of it stood a man deeply rooted in Christian beliefs. His church upbringing influenced every part of his work, from the music to the heartfelt lessons in his scripts. Church choirs, gospel songs, and prayer circles became regular parts of his storytelling. At one point, Perry thought about walking away from Hollywood. He felt drained and questioned if he still belonged in the industry. But instead of quitting, he chose to use his platform to uplift others. He believed God gave him a mission to tell stories that heal and inspire. Today, Tyler Perry stands not just as an entertainer, but as a man who uses faith to guide his purpose. Number 20. Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi rose to fame with charm and talent, playing Chuck Bartowski, the nerdy spy who won over fans. Later, he suited up as a superhero in Shazam, taking on a new level of fame. But behind the bright lights and smiles, Levi was fighting a deep battle. From a young age, he had lived with anxiety and depression, not realizing how much it was shaping his life. Those quiet struggles stayed with him, growing heavier as time went on. To cope, he turned to unhealthy habits, using alcohol and hard substances to hide the pain. But everything came crashing down after his divorce in 2015. Levi hit rock bottom, facing thoughts of taking his own life and emotional collapse. In that darkness, he remembered his faith, something he had always felt but never leaned on fully. This time, he reached out and held on tight. He entered an intensive therapy program and slowly began healing. His faith became stronger and more present in his life. Levi never left Hollywood, but he now walks a different path. He shares his story with honesty, showing how real faith can bring light to the darkest moments. His work continues, but now it's shaped by a deeper understanding of life, pain, and hope. Zachary Levi found strength not in fame, but in faith and the power of healing. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.